Howdy, this is Will with GateGuard, and today I'm going to walk you through the contents of one of our security kits, and I'm going to show you how to install it. For the purposes of today's installation, we're going to be using a Deluxe security kit. If you purchase a different kit from us, some of the steps may not be applicable, but you should get the general idea from this video. This is a 2018 F-150 Lariat, and it comes with the option of the radar blind spot tail lights and these tailgate steps in the tailgate. Some of those are the key features of our protective kit. We started GateGuard to produce parts that significantly increase the security of late model F-150 tailgates and taillights. The resulting patent-pending parts make it much more difficult to open a locked tailgate and access this expensive equipment. Let's take a look at what's in one of our security kits. All right, let's get started. First thing we're going to do is put a pair of gloves on. Some of the fabricated edges can be sharp, so we just want to make sure and prevent any cuts. All right, let's take a look. Well, in case you forget, we leave a little card here for you, because again, we don't want anybody to get cut when handling or installing this equipment. If you forget about installation, you can always head to our website. There will also be a QR code here that you can look at and you can view on your phone or a mobile device. Once we start getting into the kit, what you'll find is there's going to be a pair of latch guards, which will protect, as you might guess, the latches on the tailgate. And they've been wrapped together to protect them during shipping. And these are made out of stainless steel and are side dependent. So as you can see, there's an arrow that's cut through them that should point up when they're installed. So that'll help us get the orientation correct. The next thing you'll find is a bag of fasteners and washers and drivers and some Loctite. So these will be used in place of some of the OEM fasteners to make this much more difficult to open. And the final part of the kit is what we're calling the gate plate. So this will be installed inside the tailgate, and this protects the electric actuator that resides down here in this tailgate from inadvertent manipulation or by somebody that's trying to get into the tailgate. Now that we've seen the contents of the security kit, we'll get started with installation. We want to close the tailgate, and we want to check the alignment between the tailgate and the vehicle body. We want this gap to be consistent between the tailgate and the body, and between the tailgate and the tail light. We also want to make sure that this is in the same plane in this direction, and check both the passenger side and the driver's side alignment. If you find that your alignment needs to be modified, please don't install this kit, but go to your nearest Ford dealer and have them fix it for you. Now that we've verified the alignment is good, we'll go ahead and open the tailgate up. And we're going to get started here with the passenger side striker. It's important to mark the position of this washer against the vehicle body so that we don't modify the alignment of the tailgate. You can either do that directly with a Sharpie, or as I've done here, you can trace out one of the rubber washers on a piece of tape and cut it out if you don't want to mark on your paint. With the washer marked, we can go ahead and start to remove this striker using a T50 Torx bit. It's pretty firm because it has a Loctite on the threads to keep it from vibrating loose. Once you get it loose, it may feel like the nut back here is going to fall when you fully unthread the striker, but don't worry, it won't fall. As you can see, the nut is captive and can't fall down. Once you remove the striker, you'll see there's a washer on it, a bushing, and you'll also see the Loctite in the threads. You want to take a steel wool or steel brush and try and get that Loctite out, because we'll need to apply new Loctite when we install this. Once you've got the threads cleaned up, go ahead and remove this washer by unthreading it from the striker, but leave the bushing in place. Take the passenger side latch guard, you can tell with the arrow pointed up, and place the striker into the latch guard. Then turn it over and take the rubber gasket and place it onto the assembly. Also included in the kit is a small packet of Loctite, and we'll want to apply this to the threads of the striker before we reassemble it. Now that we've put the Loctite on, we'll put the assembly back in place. Now that we've threaded the striker down to where the latch guard is touching the vehicle body, we want to make sure that the alignment is correct. So we'll want to back off the thread just a little bit, and we just want to preserve that alignment that we previously marked. So as you can see, this position matches that alignment really well. And then we'll go ahead and snug that up by hand. The last part of the alignment we want to work with is the rotation of this latch guard. We want this to be vertical so that when we close the tailgate, it won't be rotated and impact the tailgate. So as we tighten it, you might need to hold it with your hand to prevent it from rotating. So then finally, we just want to tighten it to where it's pretty snug. You don't have to go crazy. It doesn't have to be super tight. Now that we've got this piece installed, we're going to want to close the tailgate and come to the inside of the bed and ensure that this fits appropriately against the back of the tailgate.
We want to check the alignment of the latch guard and the inside of the tailgate. When the tailgate is closed, there should be a small gap between the latch guard and the inside of the tailgate.
If you have a plastic bed liner, we'll put up a video later that shows how to trim that out so that this will fit appropriately. But if you have a spray-in bed liner like this or no bed liner, this will fit just like we're showing here. Now that we've finished the passenger side, we now need to repeat the same steps on the driver's side.
Now that we have the latch guards installed on both the passenger and driver side, we're going to remove this access cover by removing these 8 screws using a T25 driver.
We'll now take these 8 fasteners and we'll put them in a container just so that you don't lose them. Okay, now that we've got the fasteners removed, we'll go ahead and remove this access panel cover, and it might mean you need to use a trim tool to pry it up. The next thing we need to do is to extend your tailgate steps so that we can access these nuts that hold the camera and the electric switch to the tailgate. Now that we've extended the tailgate steps and we have access to the nuts that hold the handle onto the tailgate, we'll remove these one at a time and replace them with spanner security nuts. We've included 2 spanner nuts and a spanner driver so that you can install those here. Once we finish that up, we'll remove each of these plastic push pins and replace those with carriage bolts, which makes this much harder to remove. So as I said, we're removing these one at a time so that our tailgate handle doesn't fall out if you were to remove both of them at the same time. And we're replacing that nut with this security spanner nut. And you want this to be relatively snug, but you don't want to get crazy on it. You don't want to break the connection to that handle. Now that we've put the security nuts on the tailgate handle, we'll go ahead and remove this push pin connector from the rain shield. So I'm using a trim tool here to help me remove this. There you go. Now that we've removed these push pins, we're going to replace them with these stainless carriage bolts and lock nuts. If someone tries to remove this without removing the access cover, they'll be unable to do so. We've now fastened this carriage bolt in place. We don't have to get this very tight because remember, we're just replacing a plastic push pin. Now we'll do the same thing on the other side of the rain shield. Now that we've addressed the items beneath the tailgate steps, we'll move to the inside of the tailgate. We're going to loosen each of these nuts that hold down the actuator so that we can slide the gate plate into place underneath it. Now that these are backed out until they're just flush with the stud, we'll slide the plate in. When we install the plate, we want to make sure that we push the plate as far this direction as we can where the studs rest against the notches in the plate. Once it's in place, we just retighten the nuts. Now that we've gotten the internals of the tailgate button back up, we're ready to start reassembly. So we can put the steps back in place, and we can reinstall the access cover. You'll notice in the kit that we also include 8 security screws to replace the OEM screws that were here. So those will have a security head, and we've given you the driver needed to install them. Now that we've got the tailgate all buttoned up, the last step is to replace these OEM screws on the taillights. We provide these security screws and the appropriate driver to install them. When we remove and install these, we want to do them one at a time because it keeps the taillight in position and makes them easier to install.
Use the supplied washer, security screw, and the driver to install these.
The goal here is to get the taillight housing snug to the vehicle body. You don't need to get these too tight, but you want to make sure that the taillight is drawn to the vehicle body and is secure. Now we've got the security screws installed on the passenger side. We'll repeat the same thing on the driver's side. If you want to go one step further and make this kit even more secure, you can fill the heads of these security screws with epoxy. Now, I don't recommend everyone do this because if you want to remove the fasteners later, you will have to almost destroy them to get them out. But it will make these components almost impossible to remove under typical time spans that thieves want to operate. We've now finished the Deluxe Security Kit installation. This tailgate is much more secure, and these expensive taillights are much less vulnerable to theft. We thank you for supporting a small family-owned business and our local suppliers and fabricators. We've chosen to use fabricators located here in San Antonio, and to the extent practical, have purchased USA-made fasteners, drivers, and washers. If you don't already own a kit, please visit our website at GateGuardProducts.com.